Welcome back YouTube, we have Ahmed again from In-Depth Tech Reviews, and in today's video I'm going to do a comparison between OneUI 3.1 and iOS 14. So if you are thinking about switching from one OS to the other, this video will help you decide which one is better for you. I did the same comparison between stock Android 11 on Pixel devices and iOS 14, so if you consider switching to Google Pixel phones, click the link showing now on the screen or in the description below. I have here the latest and the greatest from each company, the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the S21 Ultra, to show you the best features you can get from each operating system. So let's see which OS is better for you, but before getting started, let's make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified every time I post a new video. So let's jump in. Let's start with the user interface. And here I will compare the look, the consistency, and the customizations. When it comes to the look, I found both to have smooth animations while opening and closing apps, switching between apps, navigating the recent apps screen, scrolling, and more. Also, both of them rely on background blurring, shadowing, and the other effects to give you more of a 3D design with more depth between the UI elements, which makes it easier for your eyes to differentiate between the different items on the screen. And with iOS 14, Apple implemented the new compact UI, which is similar to Android's and OneUI approach, so now Siri and the phone app have better and less distracting designs than before. So far I see both are equally good, and it depends mainly on your personal taste which one you like more, but there is only one area that OneUI lags behind, which is the home indicator, or the thin bar at the bottom of the screen. In iOS it floats over apps and it looks exactly the same no matter where you are in the OS, but in OneUI you will see some inconsistencies. Sometimes it floats over apps like in iOS. In other apps you might see a thin line that separates between the app and the home indicator, and if you are using dark theme with an app in light theme, you will see a black bar at the bottom of the screen. So OneUI lacks consistency, and this is one of the issues I experienced with the stock Android 2, which is not addressed in OneUI. Now I'm done with the look and consistency, but what about the customizations? If this is something important to you, OneUI has a lot to offer here. First, you can change the grid size of the home screen with 4 different sizes to choose from. Similarly, you can do the same for the apps screen, also known as the app drawer, in addition to the apps folders. In iOS, it's not possible to change your grid size, and the only option you get to change your icon size is by choosing between standard or zoomed options under the display zoom menu. But the problem is that choosing any of them will impact the whole UI, not just your icons. Next, the themes. In OneUI, you can change the look of the whole OS by using different themes, and there is a dedicated store with plenty of options to choose from. It's natively supported and easy to use. While in iOS, the options are fairly limited. There are some unofficial workarounds, and some of them require to jailbreak your iPhone, which is not something easy for average consumer. But this is not the full potential of OneUI when it comes to customizations. You can set a custom video as your lock screen wallpaper, in addition to the always-on display support. You can set videos as your call background by choosing between 4 preloaded videos, select photos or videos from your gallery, or create some cool animations using your AR emoji. First, select the emoji, then pick one from the 18 different animations available. You can even change the background of the animation if you want to. And finally, the active edge lighting feature. It lights up the edges of the screen when you get a notification with plenty of effects and colors to choose from. You can even color your notifications based on specific words or phrases that might appear in the notification title or content. In this category, OneUI has a lot more to offer than iOS, which can be enough to overlook the lack of consistency in the navigation bar or home indicator. But some might also prefer the simplicity of iOS, so it depends on your personal preference which approach is better. I personally don't care about having a lot of customizations, but I will give the win to OneUI for giving the option to do a lot more than iOS. Now let's talk about the system navigation. As expected, OneUI will give you more ways to navigate your phone by choosing from 3 different options. First, the traditional Android way that includes 3 buttons, one for home, one for recent apps, and a back button. Or navigate the phone using 3 different gestures: swipe up from the center to go home, swipe up from the left to access the recent apps, and a swipe up from the right to go back. And the third way is the swipe gestures, which is almost the same as iOS. A swipe up to go home, a swipe up and hold for recent apps, swiping left and right on the navigation bar to quickly switch between apps, but they are different when it comes to the back gesture, which is a very important factor. In iOS, you can go back by swiping from the left edge of the screen. In OneUI, you can swipe from any of the sides to go back. In my opinion, Android's approach doesn't take horizontal scrolling in consideration. In some cases, I found myself accidentally going back while scrolling horizontally, and the faster the scrolling, the more likely for the issue to occur, even if I have the back gesture sensitivity set to minimum. This issue also occurs when I try to access the hamburger menu using the peek gesture, but Google started to remove the hamburger menu from some apps like Google Photos and Google Maps to work better with the gesture navigation. And I hope OneUI will cope with this in the future and remove it from apps like Samsung Pay and SmartThings. In contrast, I didn't face the same problem with iOS, as the back gesture is completely out of the way while scrolling horizontally. On the other hand, Android's approach was easier for me in all other cases because the back gesture is close to my thumb, so I don't need to stretch my finger all the way to the left to go back like in iOS. So that was my demonstration for both, and you are the judge which OS will fit the way you use your phone more. But there are a lot of other factors to take in consideration in this category other than just the basic navigation. And the next one is which OS is more one-handed friendly. My short answer is OneUI for good reasons. First, the notifications shade. In OneUI, you can get it by swiping down from the home screen, and you can pull it down even further to make all the quick settings extremely easy to reach. Even with a big phone like the S21 Ultra, I don't need two hands to change my brightness or toggle my wireless controls. In contrast, iOS swipe down gesture is for the spotlight search. So to get your notifications shade or the control center, you need to swipe down from the top edge of the screen using two hands, or use the reachability gesture. And even if I used it, once I pull down the control center, the phone gets back to its original state, and some controls will be out of my reach with one hand. So I will be back again to the same scenario, either to use two hands or use the reachability gesture again, and so on. The same design approach in OneUI applies to settings. As you see, I can pull down each and every page to be reachable without activating the one-handed mode, while on iOS I need to keep using the reachability gesture in all pages. Also, most of Samsung apps are designed the same way, and I hope to see all operating systems using the same design approach in the future, especially with big phones like the 12 Pro Max and the S21 Ultra. OneUI will also provide you with a proper one-handed mode. It has a full screen view, the ability to dock it to any of the sides, and place it wherever you want on the screen. And because it has a full screen view, you will be able to access each and every part of the app to finish what you want without the need to go in and out of the one-handed mode. In iOS, the reachability gesture will hide the bottom half of the screen, so to complete your task using one hand, you have to keep going in and out of the reachability mode to finish it. On top of this, OneUI has what it's called edge panels. This feature will give you a menu that can be docked to the side with the ability to customize it with plenty of options. You can use it to quickly access certain apps, your favorite contacts, weather information, the tools panel that includes 5 different tools, music controls, reminders, clipboard manager, and more. In addition to some customization options to change the position, style, transparency, and size. Next, accessing the app library or app drawer. In OneUI, with a simple swipe up from the home screen, you will get access to the app drawer, while in iOS you can either scroll all the way to the right, which is not ideal if you have multiple pages, or you can tap and hold on the pagination dots, then swipe to the left to quickly jump to the last page, then swipe again to access the app library, which is not as easy as OneUI, plus the swipe up gesture in iOS is not even utilized. Next, there are few things that annoyed me while navigating iOS. First, there is no quick shortcut for the settings in the control center or the notifications shade like in OneUI. So every time I need to access the settings, I have to look for the icon or use the spotlight search. Second, in iOS there is no way to access the camera settings from within the camera app, which made it harder for me while taking photos, because every time I need to change something I have to quit the camera app, go to settings, and look for the camera. This also applies to apps like Safari, Mail, and so on. While in OneUI you can access the camera settings in 2 seconds, and the settings of any app is accessible from within the app itself without the need to do extra steps. Third, some buttons like cancel are always located at the very top of the screen, and to tap on it I have to use the reachability gesture or 2 hands as usual. And I'm not sure why Apple is not utilizing the back gesture in this scenario. In OneUI, with a simple swipe from any of the edges, I can cancel or go back one step, which is easier. Fourth, changing the volume. In iOS, the volume rockers can only change the volume for media and notifications. In contrast, OneUI allows me to change the volume for all system sounds. But I found OneUI to have a couple of issues when it comes to navigation. First, if I have the quick access gesture for Samsung Pay cards activated and want to swipe up from the home screen to access the recent apps, I will find myself activating Samsung Pay instead, which is a very strange approach. And to overcome this, I need to swipe up from the sides instead of the center, which is annoying, as I got used to swipe up from the center in most cases. While in iOS, just a double press on the power button will activate Apple Pay, and that's a lot better than Samsung's approach. The second issue is in how I can access my smart home controls. In OneUI, I need to pull down the notifications shade first, and then tap on the devices button, which is a two-step process rather than one step like in iOS. I can simply pull down the control center and immediately get access to my home controls. However, in my opinion, stock Android is the best in handling this. Just one press on the power button gives you access to the power controls, the Google Pay cards, and the smart home controls, and I'm not sure why Samsung is not using this way as far as it uses Android. Overall, in this category, iOS gives you far less options to navigate your phone compared to OneUI, but with less design issues. OneUI is better for one-handed use, more options to navigate your phone, but there are some minor design issues in a couple of gestures, especially when using the swipe gestures navigation. Next, the multitasking. Let's start with the picture-in-picture. In iOS, it only works with videos and FaceTime calls, while in Android, it's a part of a bigger feature called Display Over Apps. This feature allows you to have floating chat heads like in Facebook Messenger, play videos, use it with apps like Google Maps. It supports floating keyboards that helps in split screen and more. But OneUI takes the display over apps of Android to another level by adding an extra feature called pop-up window. This feature can display any app in its full state, but in a floating window that you can place anywhere on the screen, resize it, change the transparency, and minimize it for later use. But if we're gonna only compare the video playback, both can dock the picture-in-picture window to the sides, but iOS supports pinch to zoom to resize, which is slightly better than dragging your finger over one of the corners like in OneUI. Plus, iOS has a slightly bigger window size. But those two features are already available in the early builds of Android 12, so expect the gap to be closed soon. Even though OneUI is still taking the lead when it comes to the picture-in-picture for the more features it offers. Next, the split screen, which is missing from iOS. A split screen helps me in a lot of scenarios like calculating my budget, shop for products while watching videos, and more. Another feature that I really appreciate in Galaxy phones is Samsung Dex. This feature is extremely useful for multitasking. You can open a desktop version of your phone on a Mac or Windows PC, in addition to TVs and monitors. And with the latest update, now it supports wireless connection with selected Samsung devices that the S21 Ultra I'm using here is one of them. Using Samsung Dex allows me to manage my phone and PC from the same screen to make my workflow less distracting. It supports universal clipboard so I can copy and paste text between my phone and the PC as if they are a single device. I can make or receive voice and video calls from my computer using Samsung Dex. I can even use my phone as a standalone PC by connecting it to a monitor and take my multitasking to another level. iOS also has what it's called continuity. It's a set of features that can help you do certain actions on other Apple devices like universal clipboard, handoff, messaging, and more. But you won't be able to take advantage out of these features without a Mac or iPad. So if you have a Windows PC, you are out of luck. Plus, you won't be able to use your phone as a standalone PC using just a monitor or a TV. So overall in this category, the win goes to OneUI for its extremely powerful multitasking capabilities. Now let's talk about managing notifications. In this category, OneUI was better than iOS in most cases. In OneUI, same as Android, the notifications are categorized in 3 different categories: silent, default, and priority. Silent are the notifications that don't make any sound or vibration, but you still can see them in the notifications shade. The default notifications are the exact opposite to silent, and priority gives you the ability to set certain conversation within your messaging apps to always notify you even if the do not disturb is active. These notifications will always appear at the top of your notifications list, and you will be able to see the profile picture of the contact in your status bar. On the other hand, iOS 14 has only two types, either the normal or quiet notifications. Both work the same way as OneUI, but it doesn't have the priority option, and I couldn't find a way to mimic the same behavior on iOS. Beside the notification categories, there are plenty of other features that don't exist in iOS 14. First, the notification history. This feature saves my dismissed notifications up to 24 hours back, so if I dismissed any by mistake or if I don't remember the app that sent me a specific one, I can easily check that in the history. Second, smart replies. This feature automatically suggests 3 different replies based on the notification content, so I can quickly reply to messages without touching the keyboard. Third, it has the bubbles feature, which is like Facebook Messenger chat heads. Fourth, the smart pop-up view. This feature will create a pop-up window for your conversation with full access to app functions, and it works the same way as the pop-up window we saw in the multitasking category. And under settings, you can choose which apps to include or exclude from this view. Fifth, the notification reminders. You can set the phone to periodically remind you about notifications from certain apps. Under settings, you can choose the reminders period and select which apps to remind you. But I found a couple of features in iOS 14 that don't exist in OneUI. First, the ability to listen to voice messages from your notifications, and by using Force Touch, some notifications will show you the pictures in full view, if any included, with more info about this notification. So overall, the win goes to OneUI for the tremendous number of features that can help you manage your notifications. Next, the advanced features. In this category, I will talk about the special features available in each OS that don't exist in the other, so let's start with OneUI. First, Dual Messenger. This feature will allow you to create 2 instances of the same messaging app and use each one with a separate account and contact list. The feature works with most popular messaging apps as shown now on the screen, and this is one of the best features I found in OneUI. Next, the ability to lock up to 3 apps in memory, which means these apps will never refresh or reload and they won't be closed even if you tapped on the close all button. This feature will be very useful in cases when you do a lot of scrolling in some apps and don't want to lose the spot you reached, or if you are playing a game and wanted to do other stuff without losing your progress. Next, dual audio. This feature will allow you to play media on 2 different Bluetooth devices at the same time, which is useful if you have normal Bluetooth speakers without any smart features, but still want to cast your audio to multiple rooms. Another related feature to cover other possible scenarios is the separate app sound. It will allow you to play media sound from one app on a different audio device. For example, if your phone is connected to a Bluetooth speaker, you can choose only one app to play media on it and the others to use your phone speaker. One of the scenarios that I found this feature to be useful is when I receive an audio message while playing music, I can listen to it without interrupting my playback or have everyone in the room listening to my messages. Next, the ability to modify screen resolution to save battery, in addition to adjusting the temperature and colors to your taste. OneUI 3.1 has a new feature called Video Call Effects. This feature will allow you to change your background in video calls by choosing between an image, blur effect, or a color. But the best part about this feature is the ability to use it with third-party apps like Google Duo, Zoom, Cisco WebEx, and Microsoft Teams. And when it comes to the camera, there are some advanced features that you will appreciate. First, the Director's View Dual Recording, which is exclusive to the S21 series. It allows you to capture videos using 2 cameras at the same time. One of them is the front, and the second one could be the wide, ultra-wide, or telephoto. With a live preview for the 3 rear cameras while filming to switch between them without stopping your recording, it supports 3 display views, the picture-in-picture, the split screen, or the single view. But the last one will record using 1 camera only, however you will still get the live preview and the ability to switch between cameras. You can do the same in iOS, but you need to download a third-party app called Filmic Double Take, which is officially recommended by Apple. I tried it and found it to be a very basic app. First, I'm not able to switch between cameras while recording. When I use the picture-in-picture view, the app will record 2 separate videos. Not sure why, but this is how it works. In contrast, if I used the split screen view, it will record 1 single video. So OneUI is more capable. And finally, the Camera Pro mode. It has plenty of controls to adjust the capture settings the way you want without any limitations, which is also missing from iOS, and you will need a third-party app for this. Now let's talk about the best advanced features I found in iOS. First, shortcuts. This is a very powerful tool to do multiple actions at once. It has 7 different categories with plenty of shortcuts to choose from under each one. It's the same thing as the Tasker app on Android, but it's built in natively in the OS, which is better. Next, the adaptive charging. This feature will charge your phone slowly overnight and it reaches 100% just before your alarm to avoid stressing your battery all night. This feature is already available in stock Android, but I couldn't find it in OneUI at the time of filming this video, so hopefully Samsung will include it in future updates. Other than this, I couldn't find more advanced features that don't exist in the other OS, so the win goes to OneUI for the bigger number of features. Now let's talk about the ease of use. And here I will show you all the features that made my life easier in each OS and compare both implementations. So let's start with the things that OneUI does better based on my experience. First, organizing the home screen. In OneUI, you can easily rearrange your home screen pages by tapping and holding on any of them and place it anywhere you want to match your desired order. You can delete any of the pages by tapping on the delete button, in addition to setting any of the pages as your default home page by tapping on the home icon at the top. In iOS, all you can do is to hide or unhide multiple pages from your home screen, no option to reorganize your pages, change your default home page, or delete any of them. Next, reorganizing apps. In OneUI, you can multi-select apps by tapping and holding on any of them, then tap on select, which will activate the multi-selection mode. If you selected apps only, you will be able to create a folder, bulk remove or uninstall your selections at once. And if your selection includes apps and folders, you will be able to uninstall or remove apps and folders altogether. In addition to this, you can quickly add more apps to any created folder by tapping on the plus sign within the folder and multi-select whatever apps you want, so think about the amount of time you can save in OneUI. One more thing you can do to make your folders more distinguishable is by giving them different colors. Back to iOS, and here you can also multi-select by holding one app and use your other hand to tap on others, but it only works with apps, not apps and folders like in OneUI. And after selecting the apps, the only thing you can do is to create a folder, no option to bulk remove or uninstall your selections. As a workaround, to remove multiple apps from your home screen, you can add them to a folder first and then remove that folder from your home screen, which is not intuitive. Plus, there is no option to change the folder color. In OneUI, you can also hide apps from your home screen that includes native and third-party apps. While in iOS, screen time can only hide 14 system apps as shown now on the screen, or hide apps based on their age rating, which is very limited. There is a workaround for this as well, but it will require extra work. You can move all the icons you want to hide to a separate page and hide that page, which is not as easy as OneUI. Not to mention that rearranging apps in iOS is kinda confusing. Every time I try to move an app, it will keep reorganizing everything on the screen, which makes it harder for me to track the changes. In OneUI, apps can be moved freely anywhere on the screen, which makes it easier for me to organize my apps. Next, the app library versus the apps screen. Both get the job done, but there is one fundamental difference in how apps are organized. In iOS, the folders are automatically created, which is gonna save you some time, but there is no room for any human interaction, and you are stuck with what the OS thinks is better for you. On the other hand, OneUI doesn't have automatic folders creation, but it gives you the ability to create your own folders and name them the way you want. So it depends on your personal preference which approach you like more. Now let's talk about widgets. In iOS, you get 3 different sizes: small, medium, and large. Adding a widget to the home screen works the same way as apps, which means they cannot be placed freely in the home screen, so you won't be able to place them in the center or have a space between them and your apps. And to resize a widget, you have to remove it and re-add it again. In contrast, OneUI doesn't have a set of sizes. Some can go as big as the entire screen, and some can be as small as an icon. The widget can be placed anywhere on the screen as far as it fits, and to resize it, you can simply tap and hold on any and use the handles without the need to remove it and re-add it again. In addition to this, Samsung's own widgets will allow you to style them, like changing the color, the transparency, and more. OneUI or Android widgets are also interactive. So for example, the calendar widget can allow me to scroll through the months and tap on the day I want to quickly create a calendar event for that day. While in iOS, no matter where I tap on the widget, it will keep opening the calendar app on today's date. Some Android widgets support scrolling, and the others have buttons for quick actions, which is also not available in iOS. But iOS still has a cool trick that I wish Android phones will get in the future, which is the ability to stack multiple widgets. It won't only save you space in the home screen, but it will also save you some steps. And instead of scrolling through your home screen pages to reach different widgets, everything will be accessible from the same place. Next, the media controls. In OneUI, I can get the media controls of multiple apps in the quick settings area, scroll through them, and resume playing from whatever app I want without the need to open this app, which is something I couldn't do in iOS. Next, reorganizing the control center or the quick settings. In iOS, I can only organize the control center in settings, while in OneUI, I can do this right within the quick settings area, which is easier. Next, the keyboard. In OneUI, the native keyboard is way more useful than in iOS, and here is why. The numbers row is available at the top without the need to download a third-party keyboard. There is a clipboard manager that allows me to pin any text or images I want to keep for future use. I can translate text, adjust the keyboard size in all directions, use the floating keyboard that helps in the split screen, but it only lacks the ability to search for online GIFs. In iOS, I couldn't activate the numbers row. There is no option for resizing, no clipboard manager, and no floating keyboard. Searching for GIFs and all other keyboard extensions are only available in iMessage, so I wasn't able to take advantage of them in any other app. Next, the default apps. In iOS 14, I have the option to use third-party apps as my default browser or email client, which is better than before but is still limited. In OneUI, I have a lot more options. I can choose a third-party launcher, digital assistant, browser, phone, and messaging apps, in addition to managing the type of links each app can open by default. But I found one feature in iOS that I wish I had in my Samsung phone, which is the back tap gesture. In iOS, you can program the double and the triple taps on the back of the phone to do certain actions, which is very handy in a lot of scenarios. So in this category, I will give the win to OneUI for being easier to use as it required less steps and workarounds to get things done. Now let's talk about the virtual assistant or Bixby versus Siri. That requires a separate video to compare both, but I already did an in-depth comparison between the two last month. So if you didn't check the video, click the link showing now on the screen or in the description below. To sum up, Siri was better than Bixby by 4 extra points, so the win goes to iOS in this category. Now let's talk about the privacy features. In this category, I found iOS 14 to offer a lot more, and here are the best privacy features in iOS that don't exist in OneUI. The ability to choose between sharing your precise or approximate location with apps. You can choose what photos each app can access, so you don't need to give permission to all photos. iOS 14 will notify you if any app accessed your clipboard either with or without your consent, so it will give you extra peace of mind. You will also get the camera and the mic access indicators to make sure no app is accessing any of them without your permission. The ability to turn off access to local network, so apps won't be able to communicate with other devices on your local network unless permitted. And finally, Safari Privacy Report. This report tells you the number of trackers prevented from profiling you and the percentage of websites that contacted trackers. So in this category, the win goes to iOS for giving more control and extra information to help you protect your privacy. Now let's talk about software updates. And in this category, iOS is definitely the winner for few reasons. First, in iOS, you get day one software updates with the ability to register for the beta program of the next major update. In OneUI, major Android updates are extremely slow compared to Google's own Pixel phones. Samsung phones usually get the latest Android version between 4 to 12 months after its official release, and the period depends on the type of phone you have. The cheaper the phone, the longer the period. With Apple, you get 5 years of granted software updates, while Samsung offers 3 years of major updates and a maximum of 4 years for security updates. So in this category, the win goes to iOS, hands down. Now let's talk about the apps and games. I will start with the games. I subscribe to Apple Arcade and Google Play Pass to get the most out of each operating system, and I found that iOS exclusive games are better and more fun to play, but you need to also consider that Samsung phones usually have higher refresh rates and display resolutions. When it comes to apps, the iOS version usually has better design, but this is not a big deal as far as both apps function the same way. But the advantage Android has is most of the apps and games are free, but you have to deal with the ads. Overall, when it comes to apps and games, iOS has better quality, but Samsung phones have more hardware features that give better experience, so I will call this one a draw. Next, the ecosystem. And I found it hard to compare both in this category as each company is focusing on different kinds of products and services. For example, Samsung doesn't have their own smart speakers like Apple, but they have smart TVs and home appliances. Apple is focusing more on services like Fitness Plus, TV Plus, and Apple Arcade, while Samsung is leveraging Android's services instead of creating their own. Either way, it depends on your personal taste which products you like more, Apple's AirPods or Samsung's Buds, the Apple Watch or Samsung's Watch, and so on. No matter which OS you choose, you will be able to create your own ecosystem that works the best for you based on which products you already invested your money in. These are all the categories I have, but there are other factors to consider before choosing Apple or Samsung, and here are the most important things. First, Samsung's ununified hardware specs. For example, some models have two different variants, the Exynos and the Snapdragon. That depends on where you live. And the S21 Ultra I have here is no exception. Not only this, but also in the same market you will see some weird hardware choices. Take the Z Fold 2 as an example. This phone in Dubai is priced at 7,000 dirhams and it uses the Snapdragon 865 Plus, which is less powerful than the processor used in the S21 that only costs half the price, at 3.4k dirhams. And you will see the same thing with the Note 20 series. Yes, the S21 models are newer than the Z Fold 2 and the Note 20 models, but it doesn't make sense to pay more and get less powerful CPU. Samsung can fix this by minimizing the gap between the release dates or release all phones at once to unify the hardware used in all models available for sale on the same year. I see Apple's approach is better because every year all models are released at the same time with the same exact CPU, starting from the cheapest up to the highest end model. Next, the resale value. Apple devices have the best resale value in the market, and that's based on my personal experience. I sold many Apple and Samsung devices and the difference in value is not small. And finally, the repair cost. Based on my experience, I found Samsung to be more wallet friendly. Because in most of the markets, if you had an issue with your iPhone other than a cracked screen or a consumed battery, Apple will only offer a whole unit replacement instead of a repair, which is gonna cost you at least 80% of its brand new price. Some examples are broken back glass or broken camera glass and any cosmetic damage from a drop or hit, and more. On the other hand, Samsung usually repair the faulty part, which is gonna cost you a lot less than replacing the whole phone. But both offer services for accidental damage and extended warranty like Apple Care Plus and Samsung Care Plus. So that's pretty much it for today. That was my comparison between iOS 14 and the OneUI 3.1. I hope you like my video, and if you do, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. Thank you for watching.